welcome back. Today's video we are going to be testing out some new eyeshadow palettes from The Balm. I also have a face palette from them. So this is going to be their Auto Balm collection. So we have 3 new palettes in total that I will be testing out in today's video. So if you guys want to see that, so let's go ahead and get started. The Balm just launched 3 new palettes. We have 2 new eyeshadow palettes and then also a face palette. These just launched on their website. They are $26.50 each. And each of them has this kind of like vibe, like a car plate or like a license plate, which I think is super cute. So we have 3 different ones. So we have the Day to Night, which is going to be an eyeshadow palette. We also have the Pick Perf, which is the eyeshadow palette. And then we have the Girl Power. And this one here is going to be a face palette. So let me open them up so I can show you guys. So here is the inside of the Day to Night palette. So it does have inside of it 8 different shades. So you have a cream eye base. This one inside this palette is going to be black. We have 2 different matte shades, and then the rest of the shades are going to be shimmer. You do have a mirror inside of the palette. There's also this little tab here that you can actually pull out the entire palette if you wanted to, and just like take out the full palette. And then the tin is just right here, so you know you can take out the palette. These are definitely going to be nice to travel with, small and compact, because it is a tin. Obviously, it's going to protect the shades inside of there. So here are the swatches of the Day to Night palette. So you have all of these shimmers there at the top, the 2 mattes, and then also the cream eyeshadow base. So up next we have the Pick Perfect. Here's the inside of that one. Again, you do have all of the shimmers, the 2 mattes, and then this one for the neutral primer here. It's actually going to be a neutral base instead of the black one like the other palette has. All right, and here are swatches of the Pick Perfect. So again, all of our shimmers are going to be here. We have the 2 mattes and then the neutral primer base right there. So then lastly, we have the Girl Powder, and this one is actually a face palette. So inside of this one, you do get 2 different blushes, a bronzer, and a highlight as well. So here are the swatches from the face palette. I'm not exactly sure if this is actually meant to be a bronzer or not. So when I was looking at it in the pan, I thought it was, but I actually think it is meant to be a blush. But I think on me, I could probably use that one as a bronzer, which is what I'm going to do. So you do have the 3 blush shades and then the highlight in here as well. All right, so now that I've showed you guys the palettes, we're gonna go ahead and get started testing them out. So what I'm gonna do is, I love doing these with eyeshadow palettes, kind of like a verse side by side. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put the Day to Night palette on one side, and then the Perf palette on the other, the Pick Perf palette, and do kind of a different eye look with each one of these, and then I'll do the Girl Powder on my face so you guys can see that. So I'm first going to go in with the Day to Night, and again, we're just going to use that one on this side of my face for the eyes. So for that, I am going to go in with the base first, because I want to do the black base with this one, which is what is inside of this palette. So I haven't applied any base yet. I do have a little bit of concealer on my eyes, but I'm just going to pick this up on just like this synthetic shader brush and pack this one onto the lid. This is the second palette that they put these bases in. They were in their last palette as well, the What's the Tea palettes, and those had a black base as well as a neutral base. So pretty much what they're saying is, obviously you can use the black base with this if you want to, or you don't have to. It's just going to give a different look to the shadows, and that's what I noticed with the other one. Obviously, if you're using the black base, the shadows that you put on top of it are going to look a little bit different than if you're putting on a neutral base or just using concealer. The shades are going to look different. So I'm kind of mapping this out. This is what I like to do with the other palette, is just place it everywhere I would want the shadow to go, and kind of use this as just an all-over base in general for the shades that I'm about to put down. All right, so now that we've got the base, I'm going to actually go into the shade Hollywood, which is this matte right here, and I'm going to use that one to just buff out the edges of this. So I'm just going to kind of go right above it and a little onto the primer that we placed, and just kind of buff this shade into the primer to just give it a little bit of a blend. And I could have done this before, like went in with this shade all over and then applied the primer. That is something I could have done as well, but I didn't really think to do that. So instead I'm gonna kind of just blend out this base a little bit and kind of blend it into the shadow. I will say that this matte is pretty powdery. I'm getting quite a bit of fallout. You see me keep tapping. It's just getting a little bit powdery in the pan, but that doesn't bother me. You just kind of have to go in with a little bit of a light hand. Okay, so for this side, I am going to go in with the blue in this palette because I think it's so pretty. So we're going to go in with this one here. I'm also going to work a little bit of this shade here and this one on the lid as well. So I'm first going to pack the blue all over my entire lid. I'm just using this Real Techniques shader brush, and I'm just going to plop this on top of the black base. Pretty much just put it on all over the black base. I'm not going to spray my brush for this because we already are using a tacky surface. I don't think it's necessary. So we just placed that all over the lid. Super nice. Obviously, this could be an eye look right here. Literally, all you have to do, pack the base and then put this over. It looks like we did a lot of effort with this, and it was super, super easy to do. So I am now going to add a little bit of the Beacon shade, which is going to be like this pink shade here, and I'm going to add that one just to the front of my lid, kind of like the inner corner portion, and just place that one right here in the front and kind of fade it into the blue and just kind of place it right here. I'm realizing that all of the shades here are street or boulevard. That kind of makes sense with the actual palette. I didn't even realize that when I was going into these names. So each one of them has the street name. So here's what it looks like kind of close up, if you can tell. I think that's super cute. I didn't even realize when I was swatching them or anything that that is what it is. So this one is Wall Street. And I'm going to go into that one and actually pack this one on top of the blue. Just kind of give it a hint of gold in here. And it's kind of going to pull a little bit green too. And I'm just focusing this one on the outer portion away from where we put that pink shade on the inner corner because I want it to kind of just fade into each other. So for the Pick Perfect, we're going to go in with that neutral primer. I washed my brush and I'm using the same exact brush. And I'm going to do the exact same thing as I did on the other eye. I'm going to just map this one out exactly where I want to apply the shadows. Obviously, this one is going to be a little bit closer to my skin tone, so I can't really be too precise with where I'm going to put this one. I can kind of map still where I'm going to put my eyeshadows to make it sticky, but it's not going to look as prominent as obviously the black one did. So since I had good luck with blending the other one, I'm going to go into St. Charles Place, or St. Charles Street. I wanted to say place from Monopoly, but here's that. Just from the palettes. This is like one of the only mattes in here. We have that green matte too, which I might use. But because it worked nicely to kind of blend it on the other side, that's what I'm going to do. So I'm just going to go into this shade first and kind of just blend it around those edges. So after that, I am going to pack all over the lid. So the color that I want to use is Broadway, this one right here. It's kind of like a pink shade. I want to go in with that one all over the lid using the same Real Techniques brush. I'm going to just start packing this one all over our primer and kind of doing the same thing like we did on the other side, just packing this one all over the entire lid. So that one just more looks like kind of like a satin almost. When I look at it, it doesn't really have much sparkles in it. So I am going to go ahead and add a few shades over it. I'm going to go in with Rodeo, and I'm actually going to apply this one to the entire lid again and kind of pack this one on just to give it more of a shimmered look, because the other shade really didn't have much shimmer to it, which I don't mind because I think it's actually nice because there's not really a lot of mattes in this palette. So that's actually nice so that you can kind of use it as a matte. So I'm just packing this one all over the lid. And I actually think I do want to wet my brush on this side because we don't have the black base. It's not as intense. So I am going to wet this brush and see if we can make this shade just like really, really foiled on the lid. So next I'm going to go into Market Street, this middle one, and I'm going to apply a little bit of this one just to the outer corner, kind of just to deepen this up a tiny, tiny bit. Kind of just work this one in. So I am going to go into Sunset Boulevard as well. This one is the blue in this palette, and I kind of want to add a little bit of that just in the middle here over top of that other shade, just to add a little bit more dimension. I'm kind of wishing maybe I didn't go in with that red initially, because it's made it a little bit hard to kind of get dimension on this. It's kind of turning into a crazy eye look, but actually I think I'm just going to add this sunset shade all over the lid. We'll see how that looks. All right, so now that we've got that all over the lid, I think it looks a little bit better. I think I should have went in with the blue. I think this is kind of too many shades over top of each other. It's looking a little bit like, you know, too much. I'm going to apply a little bit of this one again to the inner corner here. And then we're just gonna go on to the lower lash line. If I were to use this palette again, or when I do use this palette again, I'm probably not going to go in with that red base off the start because I don't think that did us any favors when trying to layer these shades. Okay, so I went ahead and applied some lashes. I used the Miami Flares, and now we're going to move on to the cheek palette and test out these products on the face. So up first, I'm going to go in with that shade. I think I want to use it as a bronzer right here. And I want to go in with this big like powder brush here from Moda, and I'm pretty much just going to kind of angle my brush to where it's everywhere. And that's the only thing with these smaller palettes that makes it a little bit hard with the cheek colors is to figure out how to get your brush in there if you are using a bigger brush. So I definitely think that this is probably meant to be a blush shade like I was saying, but I think it will be okay for me as a bronzer. It might be a little bit kind of too dark, but I think I can make it work. So I think it looks actually pretty good as a bronzer. I am gonna carve out just my cheekbones here. I've been doing this. It's so funny because I did a video. It was a tag video, and it was like talking about a step that you don't do in your makeup routine. And I started doing this, I swear it was like right after I said I don't do it. And now I can't not do it. I feel like it makes such a difference in the way that your bronzer looks. It just looks so much more put together. So I've really been doing that a lot lately. I do want to move on to the blush colors now. So I think the one that I'm going to go into is Houston Street, which is going to be this one here. It's the more just kind of like peachy blush. And then we have that more mauve-y one, but I think for this look, I'm just gonna go in with the peachy one, kind of just apply it to the apples and then bring it up a bit. The Balm has some of my favorite blushes in general. I think they're just so pretty on the cheeks. They're very pigmented, but they're not over pigmented to where I feel like, you know, you're applying too much product. I think it looks like just the right amount after you use them. I'm kind of just applying it all over my face. I do that sometimes just so we don't have too much pink just right here on our cheeks. And I'm excited to go in with the highlight. So we have Fifth Ave, which is going to be the highlight right here. Looks like it's going to be a really pretty like rose gold color. So I'm just going to apply that right here to the cheekbones. Looks like it's going to need some building up. I can see a little bit of glitter in this one, but it's not the chunky glitter, so it's not going to look too intense on our texture. So I'm kind of just building that up a little bit, and I was worried it might be a little bit too dark, but I don't think. I think it actually looks pretty good. All right, so I'm gonna dust away this bake and then really quickly just go apply a lip color, and then I'll be back to give you guys my final thoughts. All right, so for my lip, I went in with a butter gloss from NYX. It's the Intense Butter Gloss in Tres Leche. That's one of my all-time favorite glosses ever. And so let's get into our final thoughts on the palette. So between the two palettes, the Pick Perfect and the Day to Night, I think for me, more of like my vibes is the Day to Night palette. I think that this has just like my tones. I just love blues together. I love using like copper. So I think that this one for me, I'm gonna get along with very well. But this one I think is pretty as well. I did end up liking the eye look that we came up with. I want to continue to play with this one, kind of play with the blue in here, the army green in here, and do some more fun eye looks with this. But I think the quality of the palettes are really nice. I love mini palettes. I love that they're becoming a trend. I like having a palette kind of like in this little tin where you could just take it with you in your purse even, take it with you on the go because they are so just small and mini. As far as the cheek palette goes, I did really like this one. I don't know if I would use the Bleecker shade again as a bronzer. I don't think it looks bad, but I just think that it's a tint too dark for me. But the blushes were really nice in here. Also, I think the highlight looks really pretty on the lid. So these are definitely going to be a yes for me. I think that they are pretty pigmented, pretty cool. I love mini palettes. So you will have to let me know down in the comment section which eye look you guys like better. Which side are you vibing with more? Are you interested in these palettes? Let me know down in the comment section. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you did enjoy it. Also, don't forget to subscribe before you go, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye guys.